knows, it looks like my Pro Tips logo was saying, I am more important than the sploosh intro. Good morning. Welcome back to Reaper Pro Tips with me, your host, Anne, and undisembodied voice, just text typey Justin, who's working very hard on Reaper Virtual Expo stuff. So you all should, give him much commiseration and thank yous. Because without Justin, Reaper Virtual Expo does not, function nearly as well as with Justin. So we are sacrificing our Justin to the Reaper Virtual Expo today. We can think of it, sacrificing Justin on the altar of the Reaper Virtual Expo. I'm going to fix my logo really quick so that it actually isn't trying to get in front of my sploosh. There we go. Much better. Now it should be okay. What are you doing, stupid thing? All right, there. Boy, sometimes OBS is has a mind of its own. Hi, everybody. Good, I'm glad you're excited. Yeah, I'm actually kind of excited. I was thinking about this actually this morning, because I said I was going to retool some new classes, so that for the next one, not for RVE, but for the next time, I'll actually have some brand new offerings, which is something that I would really like to do, and it's long overdue. So that's my goal. I will be just watching the Virtual Expo instead of participating this time. But then you guys get me every morning, so it's I know a structured class is different. Lets me focus a little bit more sometimes. But yeah. It's like going to the gym. Who's going to the gym? I actually was good. So I don't know if Bryce is on this morning. B. Kokenauer. But if he is, I actually did. He recommended that I do some warm-up exercises before the stream. And that is a good idea. So I did it. And we'll see how I fare. I'll still have to take breaks. Aw, yes. Thanks for all the hard work on RV. See, Justin, got you appreciates. I got you appreciates. Appreciate the Justin. I know because since I worked at Reaper for many years, when things get really hot and moving, often everybody just kind of forgets to appreciate each other. It's something that happens with every job and every community and every group, right? Is you're all so focused and you just forget to look at each other and say, seriously, thank you. So give some serious thanks, to all the virtual Reaperites who are currently working really hard on making RVE a good thing for you guys. Because, when you're in the middle of it, you always forget to thank each other, and then stress levels rise, and it's but they need to know. Everybody needs to know that they're appreciated. I firmly believe this. All right. You should check out our YouTube channel, because you should go watch my free thing from ReaperCon, which is the thinning MSP paints thing. You should totally go watch that, because if you haven't and you paint with MSP, you are missing out. It will help your painting. It'll tell you how much to thin for various techniques. So what are we going to do today? We're going to paint red. Let's paint red. Where is my heraldic red? Hold on while I actually shift myself instead of pivoting. Trying to be a good Anne today. Yes, you should all go watch it, because it answers that question. And there is a free PDF on my Patreon, patreon.com/paintingbig. So if you go and watch my thinning MSP paints video from ReaperCon, which is on the Reaper YouTube, then you can go over to my Patreon on patreon.com/paintingbig, and you can look at the free stuff, the free public stuff, and there is a free PDF that summarizes the content for you. So you can just grab it. Do both, because the PDF's great, but if you watch it, it kind of helps embed it in your brain as you look at the PDF. So good. Yeah, that's one of the most commonly asked questions we get, right? Is how much do you thin your paint for X, Y, or Z? And the blues are a good thing to demonstrate that on, because they're so transparent when you're dealing with the dark colors, and they get so opaque so fast when you throw white in there. So it's both a video on painting with blue and a video on thinning your paints. So we're going to start with heraldic, which is pretty much these days my hands down favorite red to start with if I'm going to be going red. It is it looks a little dark in the bottle, but it's actually quite vibrant on the palette. You can see it there. And it's one of the better covering reds. So it's good to start with. Up from there, you could go up to a clear red, and then start adding white or yellow to your liking. On this one, we may go yellow because it tends to make the red look even more saturated. So essentially, the reds to The reds to go yellow on are obviously the warm reds, right? If you want to go up toward orange, and you want that really, like, bloody kind of red. When I go cooler reds, when I'm working with colder reds that are more violet, that's when I tend to use white to highlight them. And it tends to wash them out just a little bit, but on a violet red, you're looking to cool things down anyway, so it doesn't matter as much. You can go up via white on your warmer reds, but you're going to have to do a lot of glazing to keep that warmth, in my experience. I went up with white on my Soldier 76 statue on his leather jacket, and there was a lot of glazing that happened to make sure that that red stayed warm. Because when you're adding white in, you're just cooling stuff down and washing stuff out. Oh, good, VCR. Yay! Good. I'm glad it helped you. That is really my aim and goal. I would not spend so much time doing this stuff on video all the time and do 2 streams on Thursdays and Tuesdays if I didn't care about you guys learning to paint. Given the D&D stream is much D&D and some painting, but still. I'm thinking about remodeling that stream. Like, I'm kind of feeling like it's a little bit of pressure to have to develop the game for 2 days a week, even though we haven't been moving very fast lately. But I was thinking maybe I should just do 1 day a week just painting and 1 day actually actively running the game. Because for one thing, I find that when I'm actively running the game that I don't actually make much progress on the figure that we're painting. Mostly because you guys are hilarious. I do that on my own Twitch channel, by the way, guys. So that's twitch.tv/paintingbig, just like the Patreon. So we're just going to put this on, and you could do 2 things to bring out the details. You could do a wash on it, or you could do a lining. I'm going to do kind of a little both on this one. I'm probably going to line on the handle of the wrap, because it's just going to be a little bit easier for me here. I want this to stay pretty bright. Essentially, if you want something to stay really bright, if you've started with a medium red and you want it to stay pretty vibrant, don't want to put a wash over it. But sometimes, like with these little feathers, you may find it hard to get detailing in if you don't use a wash. So, you kind of have to balance that and ask yourself, well, what am I willing to trade off on here? Reds can be persnickety. Like, it took me a long time. Red used to be one of my favorite colors to paint, and I always started it really dark and worked up. These days, because if I'm doing something faster like this, I tend to start more in the middle. But, oh yeah, for the shipments and everything. Yeah, we pretty much do it all hands on that. If you don't have back issues, you're unloading the trailer. And sometimes even if you are, even if you do rather. Okay, let's see here. So is that a mold line? Sometimes it's hard to tell. I think there's probably a mold line here, but it goes all the way around, and it could really just look like 2 feathers. So I'm not certain I want to do anything to it. I may just paint it as 2 little feathers overlapping. I think I'm going to do that. So if you're going to do a wash over red, do start with a fairly light, bright red. Essentially, the lighter the color underneath your wash, the more definition the wash will give you. And you can go too far with it. You can go very dark wash over a fairly light color and it'll look really kind of wonky and not like shading. So keep in mind that your wash doesn't need to be like black if you're working with a lighter color. You should kind of scale it. Hold on, I'm going to get more in focus here. You should scale it according to your base color and what color you want it to end up as, right? Try to keep my back all nice today. We will get up and stretch whenever we need to. Trying to encourage David to stretch more too. It helps that I do because it kind of reminds him that he's been sitting in one position for like 2 hours. Usually a bad position. Alrighty, we'll get the back side of this other little feather, and then we'll do our shading. And we'll get a little closer too. I do probably want to start kind of blocking in the shield too. 1 second. Alright, looks like, okay, that's another little band there. I see what it is. I've got 2 little bands holding these feathers on. I'll have to decide what color to make those. Probably I'll go, that's a good question. I don't know, maybe leather. Maybe more like the skin tone. Just to break things up. You kind of want to repeat colors on the model. Like, I don't want to go in to put blue up here for the bands if there's no blue elsewhere on the model. I could possibly go with some green because I'm doing some verdigris here. So I could, but it probably wouldn't look all that great with this red. So I don't know. Jury's still out. Jury's still out. Probably will go like a tan leather, kind of like the skin, since I did actually use tanned leather. Or leather brown, rather, as one of the bases for the skin colors. Hey, Corey Noob, thank you for the resub. 3 months. You are at your 1/4 subiversary. All right. And I'm still kind of out on this bikini. Like, I really do feel like I do need to make everything bronze as far as her armor goes. Although part of me wanted to take it red, but I really feel like as a statue, it probably would be metal. So we'll just keep that for now. And then, remember we were going to kind of the streaking, turning from life to stone or stone to life thing. We wanted to have that over the shield too, because you can see that if you put the shield in position, that it would, right? You've got these streaky things going on the leg underneath, so that means that they would be also on the shield where it goes over there. Like, if you're going to continue this visually, right? Because we have to think about our visual pattern. So that means that probably it's going to go in here. I will put a bronze rim on this shield, but I'm just going to use my red to kind of block in how I want it to look. So let's look at where our leg thing is, because the face of the shield I want to be red. So I think I'm going to go, and I'm just going to block in kind of a couple of different just blocks, the swoopy blocks that I've got up here. And I'll just continue those down here. And I'm thinking a little bit about composition. So if you look at this, what we've got is, so we've got red going in a diagonal, right? You've got a high red and a low red. Now, hopefully, this is going to kind of carry the eye around the model. The fact that the shield is kind of tilted means the red won't be face onto the viewer down here, so it should help to minimize it. It's going to be like stone to life, just like everything else. So if she was like real, I'd have her in bronze armor, and the shield will be red and bronze, like painted red with the bronze bowl and the bronze rim and the bronze rivets. So that's what I'm doing. I'm extending some of the magic, because if you look, the magic is also going at a diagonal, right? Because it's coming across her and going down and spreading out as it goes down. So in reality, what's probably happening is she's starting to come to life from her feet, and she's coming up. And this arm is more alive because it's got the weapon in it. No, I think a bronze shield would be pretty boring, Crowley. And I was going to do with the other statue, if we ever decide to do the male analog for this. He's going to be all bronze. We're going to do some serious verdigris on him and stuff. So I want to make her, I'm still using bronze for her because it makes sense for the statue, but I'm not going to just make the shield bronze. That seems kind of, the other one, the Medusa head, that'll be on the bronze statue. Sure, absolutely. But I don't want to just make the shield bronze. Why? Essentially, okay, so think about what I just talked about with color. If I put this red up here and it's nowhere else on the model, it's just, you're going to stare right at this red. It's going to be the first thing you look at on the model. And it's not terrible bad because it's the weapon, so it is important. But it's even better if you can put it somewhere else on the model and make the eye travel. Like, if I really wanted to, the other thing I could do is make her eyes glow red, which I am considering. Like, I'm considering kind of filling those in with white and adding, like, a brilliant red glow. That would give me the rule of the 3 places repeated on the model. So, because I count these as one because they're so close together. So that essentially, so I'm thinking color, not just like concept, but I'm thinking color theory and composition as I'm making these decisions. So it's not just I'll just make the shield bronze. It's where can I put red? Well, if I make the shield like it's coming to life too, so that it turns into a shield that's bronze but covered with leather, or wood and covered with leather and plated with bronze, whatever you want to say, then I have an excuse to put red in and to continue my red. When you do these, keep ragged edges on your little dashes here. Like, try to kind of keep a ragged look, because if you look at that, we've got that going on here where the stone to flesh is happening. So does that all make sense to you, Carly? Like, the fact that I have the opportunity to put more red down here, the fact that it'll kind of help push the color scheme, so it's not just in one place. The bull is going to be bronze, so I'm kind of going around him with the red here. So it's not just that I'm thinking of, everything except her skin being bronze, or all armor being bronze, but I have a chance to put an accent color in here, so I'm going to take it. Like, you make the rules with your painting. I find it very counterproductive and very, hard on my creativity if I ever stop and say, oh, well, this would be the way it really is, though. Like, you should start from realism. This is why I say always use it, if you're painting an animal, you should always start with a concept photo. But there is a point where you depart from that, and where you're within your rights to depart from that as an artist. And I'm fully in support of departing from reality. Obviously, I'm a writer. What do I do? I depart from reality daily. I think it helps, especially now. Okay. Well, we can take that off now. We more or less got the idea. I'm gonna putty that shoulder in eventually, but not quite yet. So there we go. That we've got just a little bit. Like, this is kind of cool and ragged, right? Like, if you look at it, though, did manage to make it at the right angle. So as it fades, as the life is coming in on her leg, the red is coming in on a shield at exactly the right angle. So it's going diagonally. So the fact that the motion here is at this angle also helps to lead your eye back up to there. Hey, Cool Pack, how's it going? So that's our color composition lesson of the morning. Now I'm going to thin my red just a little bit so that I can get a little finer and smoother with its second coat. I want a nice solid coat on this. But I'm liking this so far. The other option, if you didn't want to make her eyes glow, by the way, would be to put kind of a faded red glaze up on her crest. The crest is the most likely thing that would have been red when it wasn't stone. So you could maybe take the outer edges and suggest that it's been painted, or that the red is starting to kind of seep into it. That's another way you could do this if you wanted to put a red kind of thing up top. But I'm thinking I might, because the eyes are kind of way inside this helmet as it is. So it's kind of hard to paint them anyway. So painting them as solid, you either shade them like a lot or you give them a glow, in my opinion. It's one or the other. Either you just like block them in. Trying to paint actual eyes on the statue deep inside of helmets is just really difficult. Really difficult and usually not worth it. So there you go. Those are my reasonings. Yeah, if her helmet hadn't been sculpted like it was stone so heavily, I would totally have gone red with the crest. And then we'd have the 3 places that our red would be. But as it is, I'm toning it down a bit. Because the crest is so obviously sculpted to be stone. So there I will bow to quote-unquote reality. Just this once. I'm kind of refining my little tendrils now, making sure they're like little licks of flame. I'm just like kind of making them wispy, and I'll be coming back in with the stone probably to kind of integrate the two, kind of like I did over here, to kind of, work with them both and make sure that they look like they're fading into each other, which really is just putting a little bit of the thin red over the stone, a little bit of the stone over the red. We can take that off. So yeah, and I think I'm gotta be careful because I don't want to violate my angle. But we're still really good on that, so we're okay. Gotta be a little, just want to check. And it's not like I can't paint over this. I just wanted to surround this rivet with red so that it would be like bronze to red to bronze to stone to, it'd be more interesting like that. All right, so we got our little tendrils going out and becoming alive. Yay, alive. Hello, Shuttle Stomp. I mean, a shield mimic, I guess they'd eat your arm, right? They'd be armivores. You'd stick your arm into the straps and they would become teeth and they would just eat your arm. That would be kind of horrifying. Yeah, I think so. Mimics in general are pretty cute. And awful. When you think about really what they do. Alright, let me see here. I need my rich leather. But something here says that my rich leather is already out, and I have just put it over here. Yes. I have some paints on the side, sitting there waiting for a project I need to start on. And we'll get our bronze base. I really need more rich leather, although I do think I've got a backup bottle. But I'm about to make a Reaper order for monsters and stuff to paint for you guys. So, I need to take stock of what paints I want extras of. And really, a color I use on pretty much every gosh darn model I do probably should be one of those I acquire an extra bottle of, even if I already have an extra bottle. So again, just block it in some of this red, a little bit stronger. And then we'll bring in the bowl. I can't give you a precise formula, Crows and Bones. Arthurian, it's been so long since I made that color because it was a heavy gear. Have you looked at something like Brilliant Blue? Like 9116? That might be too dark, but I don't think it is. Because Arthurian is a really bright, vivid, deeper blue. Am I correct on that? It's been, honestly, Crows and Bones, I don't remember what the color is because it's been years since I made heavy gear. I remember it being blue, but I don't remember if it was the slightly lighter one or if it was the darker one. I just, if I recall, it actually had very little non-blue pigment in it. If you feel it needs a bit more, okay, so there's two different things you're talking about, Crows and Bones. Two different things. Depth means, essentially, if you feel it needs more color depth, add a drop of clear blue. 9097. But if you think that it needs dark, then that could be completely different. But I think, if I remember correctly, Arthurian did not have much non-blue pigment in it. And so what you're probably looking for is just mixing in a drop of clear blue, which is all solid blue pigment. It's a very dark color because the blue pigment that is used in it is very dark. So it will impinge on your coverage, but it should give you very close. If you feel like Brilliant is close but just needs a little bit more, try a drop of clear blue. But I'll tell you, Brilliant is really close to like almost pure blue pigment. So it's like, all right, let's get our rim on our shield here. Kind of following the same area that the, and again, I'm going to come in and probably trim up some of this to make it look cooler. I might bring in more bone like on the edge. I'll probably thin that area, but right now I just want to get kind of blocks of base bronze on the shield design where I want them. Try the clear blue and see if that gives you darkness, because I don't remember Arthurian having much black in it, Crows and Bones. Like, a lot of the heavy gear colors actually weren't that great for coverage. Some of them were pretty good for transparency. But yeah, just experiment with that. I mean, the answer is you either add something like Ritterlich to take it darker, because Ritterlich has black in it, or you add clear blue to take it deeper. And clear blue is going to darken it just a little bit because blue pigment is naturally dark, but it's not going to... If you really are looking for a darker color, as in add black, then you probably want to just add a bit of Ritterlich. Assuming you have that, since it's the next paint in the triad. It's a shadow in that triad. So now I gotta ask myself, do I want more bronze on the bowl? Oh, I don't know. I think it's pretty cool. I kind of want to make more bronze there so that I can do a little bit of verdigris here on the details on the mane. That would be cool. And I think I want to do the whole snout. But in that case, I need to expand my red a little bit so that it looks right. Yeah, either of those options will get you close. I mean, when it comes down to it, Crows, there's a lot of times where when you're just mixing from bottles, you actually can't hit precisely what I have done with mixes. Because remember, I'm mixing into buckets, like, or in this case, Sadie, you know, now is mixing into buckets. Those buckets are going to have between 1 and 3 gallons of base in them. And I could be adding a 1/48 of an ounce of pigment to that. And that's so fine and such a small adjustment that, you know, when I'm working on that kind of level, then you're just, usually when you're just adding a drop from a bottle, you're just not going to hit that exactly. But you should also remember that hitting it precisely isn't terribly important. As long as it is close, the eye will be okay with it. There are lots of times that we're in my painting where I'm like, yeah, that's close enough. Just because I know when I shade, after I shade and highlight, nobody's going to be able to tell if my base coat was just a little bit different. There, I widened my red down there to make my bull nose look right. Yeah. Oh, and I technically need a little bit there. And I could widen that a little bit. Cool streakies. Having fun. It's fun to do this kind of thing over an underlying design. Then you get to do the shading and the weathering on both sides. The stone and then the bronze. This is a fun project. Alrighty. So we've got that, we've got that, we've got that. We've got our stone. I want to maybe do our marble effect on our stone now. Let's grab our stone. Wolf gray and stone gray. Bleached linen and brown liner. This is where it's nice that I have my sticky note to warn me. Luckily, wolf gray and stone gray are 2 colors I use all the time, so they were right in the front of my gray section of my box. I should show you guys how I've organized things. Here, hold on. Boop. Let me take a picture and then hold it up under the camera. So my drawer is looking currently, this is the drawer that's right next to me as I paint. So you can see how few colors, now there are a few colors back here. I haven't pulled the drawer all the way out because it gets pretty heavy. I don't like to taunt the fates and have it collapse onto the floor. But, so this is where I am as far as my paint supplies and my organization, which I figured might be a little bit interesting to you guys. So here I've got my purples and my reds sit together in one little box. I've got essentially box tops of various containers that I'm using to segment this drawer out, just to make it so that I've got somewhere to put these bottles so I can put them upright so I can see them, and so they essentially I can put more. Like when I had all these guys jumbled in there, they looked like they were filling the drawer, but now that I can put them vertically, I can fit more colors if I want to. These are my light browns here. These are my skin tones down here. I've got more room should I decide I need more colors. This is my dark browns section. So any medium to dark brown that I use a lot, like the rich leather, polished leather, ruddy brown, walnut, black and brown, any of those medium browns are going to be down here. The light browns are over here with the ivories though, because I use these in different ways than I use these. And then on the back, we've got my blues and we've got gray, but I put the teal behind that because I've got the green back here. So I've got my yellows up front and they're kind of falling over, so I need to save them. And then the yellows, as you can see, I use a very small selection of yellows, like maybe 5 or 6. I do consider all those necessary though. And actually there's one that's not in there. The Syrian sand and candlelight actually aren't in there. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 7 if you count a Syrian sand, which is more of an off-white, but I put it in with my yellows because I use it as a yellow. I use it as like a yellow white light color. So then we've got over here, we've got our grays. I just took 2 of those out, so it looks like I have almost no grays, but I do have like 5. Then I've got my teals like Tianzia Jade, Surf Aqua, Deep Ocean, and I've got my blues here. So it kind of goes, it's yellow and gray, but then it's blue, teal, green, so it kind of makes sense. Then my greens are extending off into the back of the drawer. So these are all the colors that I use most frequently. And I recently redid my drawer to add a few that I wanted to use more often, like deep red and stuff like that. So this is kind of like a 3D color wheel. Yeah, except that everybody's, it is a little bit off. Like, it's not like, I'm not going red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple, right? Because I knew that I needed a big box for browns, because I use a crap ton of different browns. Because browns have a whole bunch of, like, just different utilities depending on what they are. So yeah, so that's currently, and I don't use anything else, guys, except that on my desktop over here, on this side by my camera base, I have essentially a circle of little paints that are surrounding my camera base. And that circle of paints includes the liners, black, white, walnut brown, and that's pretty much it. Black, white, walnut, the liners. Sometimes I keep russet brown out here because I use it so much. But pretty much those are all my dark shadows, all my near blacks, plus my pure white are just there forever next to me because I use them all the time. But that's the only paint that I allow to just like kind of glom up on my desktop anymore, because I've gotten pretty good now. I make a point of putting my paints away after every stream, because if I don't, it's hard to work. And speaking of which, I'm putting my cyan blue away from yesterday. Those of you who are on my Patreon know I put up my best coverage greens, blues, and purples video yesterday. So if you are looking for the best coverage, or I think they are pretty much the best colors of coverage. I could have forgotten maybe one that was a decent coverage in those colors, but in general, those are the best coverage versions of those colors. So if you're looking for a good coverage blue, look at that video. And surprise, surprise, they're not in bones, mostly. When I realized how good the coverage was on some of those, it was interesting. But yeah, that's how I organize my paints now. Like, it's very, very... And I do have a bunch of them kind of sitting over. I'm picking up paints for a coaching project. And the problem with this coaching project is that we're trying to paint something like Sergio. And the problem is that Sergio uses lots of paints when he paints. So I've got all this slew of stuff over there that I probably won't use all of because, Sergio doesn't. But I have them out so that we have options. Sergio's painting style, if you have not taken a class with him, Sergio Calvo Rubio from Spain, is very different. And putting a little bit of water into my thing. I'm going to grab some bleached linen because that's what I'm using for highlights and to make my stone kind of marbly. Actually, Cool Pack, the funny thing is that when I did have all my paints jumbled in the drawer, they were jumbled in sections like that. So all my yellows were jumbled together, all my greens were jumbled together. So I didn't have too much trouble finding stuff, but every once in a while I would. And I really wanted it. I wanted to kind of get my collection a little bit more organized, and I wanted to look and see what holes there were. Or what colors I had that weren't currently in the drawer might I want to work in more often. Like, we'll use deep red today to probably shade this red because it's 9002. It's still one of my favorite reds that I've ever done, and it's very high utility. Let's see, this bottle of water is almost out. Almost. Not quite. There. Yeah, you could do a swatch sketchbook. It's, Shuttle, what it's going to do, what you should probably do is do the sketchbook, swatch book, but what I would do is start with, say, colors you really like. Like, that you use red a lot, or you use blue a lot. So doing like that with blues will kind of give you a feel for how opaque or transparent they are, or how they differ in color. But I wouldn't do the whole thing, because I think if you're trying to internalize how different colors in a set are different from each other, like how the different blues are different in coverage and color and everything like that, I think you're just going to overwhelm yourself if you just do it all in one go. So I would essentially pick a section of colors, just do a few, play with them. I'd even maybe just do 6 at a time. Because if your aim is to learn the colors better, I think that if you jump in and do it with all the colors, it's not effective learning-wise. Like, eventually you'll have it all at your fingertips so you can look at it, but if you're really actively paying attention and you're trying to, like, really focus while you're working on it, you can only absorb so much. Yeah, I don't find I need the caps colored on. Like, between the black and white difference of the caps between Bones and MSP and Pathfinder, and then also just looking at the top of the bottle, which I can easily see in that setup. You guys could see it too when I put up the picture. Then, you know. Now, I do know Shuttle Stomp. I do know somebody who did do a swatch book of every color. Essentially what it just means is he can look up a color and see. But like I said, he's going to have to do that with again and again and again with a bunch, you know, with all these different colors, which could be very effective for him because he's probably going to find himself checking on, you know, certain colors more than others. But it also means that you're not getting as much mileage straight up. So like if you're looking at 6 different reds that you like and you really want to kind of look at how they're different from each other, then focusing on those 6 reds and kind of going, oh, all right, so fire red is a little lighter. All right. Oh, and a little colder. And this one is really warm, but it doesn't cover, and, you know, stuff like this. And what I would recommend if you are going to do swatches is to do what I did in the videos I just put up on my Patreon. Do a strip of white and a strip of black to paint them over. You will find that dark colors cover better over black, and white will show you instantly where there are faults in coverage or where there is more transparency. Whereas light colors, you'll find out how good their coverage really is if you put them over black, medium to light, because then you'll see. Yeah. And like I said, this always depends on your goals. If your goal is to have a complete collection of MSP swatches, like my other mentoree was, like, then, yeah, do everything. Go ahead. But I always think it's nice if you can kind of internalize as you go and chunk down projects so that you actually learn more through doing them. Oh, okay, cool. Well, welcome. Oh, hey, it's time to do a stretch. I'm going to get up and stretch. I also just dropped something on the floor, and I don't want to, like, contort my spine bending over to get it, so we're going to stretch. Stretching time! And then we're going to do the stone on the shield and the arm. We'll block in our marbly pattern. I also have to kind of look. Yeah, I do have a lot of brown liner, kind of veining, darker veining on that, so we'll do that. Okay, I'm going to carefully crouch down and get the thing that I dropped on the floor. Because things do drop on the floor. And then we do stretches. Stretches, guys. Do your stretches. If you've been sitting or standing or doing anything for 45 minutes without a break, stretch, please. Keep yourself in shape. I know all of us are out of shape anyway. Do some stretches to stretch your shoulders. Yeah. Yeah, totally, D. Clearman. Yeah, and it's, like I said, it's all your goals. But if you're trying to learn the colors, like, really, really internalize it, I think chunking it is a good effective strategy as well. A lot of airbrush control while... Yeah, okay, well, that's a good thing. Good point there, actually, Shuttle Stomp. D. Clearman used an airbrush to apply the colors for his swatches, and that let him practice airbrushing. Remember, round is a shape. I'm kind of ovalish. I mean, I'm not as round as I used to be. I lost a crap ton of weight when I did keto. And I gained a little bit back during COVID, but I actually am losing again now, so. But yeah, so if you do your swatches with an airbrush, then, you know, now I will actually warn you though, Shuttle, airbrush can sometimes make a paint appear more opaque than it is. Because you're putting an even coat over the top of your substrate, and that can make a color that's relatively transparent. I'm going to crouch and do a kind of a spinal stretch. That can make a color that appears a little more transparent when you're putting on with a brush, look a little more opaque when you spray it on. So, yeah, everybody fluctuates with the weight. Although now, this is kind of a cooler week, and it's overcast, but hopefully our springtime kicks in here in Northern California soon, and I'm really looking forward to walking when, you know, when it's in 70s, when it's perfect walking weather. Yeah, that's why I noticed that, D. Clearman, because when Reaper had a point in the past, guys, where we were actually working with a Hollywood company for animated colors for an animated feature, and we found very quickly that not only the coverage appearance, but sometimes even the color would shift if it's applied with airbrush versus applied with brush. So keep all that in mind. Don't need to walk if you live in snow-covered Pennsylvania. Oh yeah, where you're shoveling. Yeah, any cardio is cardio, Magnetic Gumby. I'm gonna do a couple of cat cows. Cat cows. Even though last night I was arguing with David that it made more sense for it to be a cow-cat. But he said that a cow-cat sounded like a cow-sized cat, which was actually terrifying, whereas a cat-cow sounded like a cat-sized cow, which was adorable. Even though you always do cow first, they don't want to call it a cow-cat. Apparently that's just menacing. I mean, I get it. Siberian tigers are not cow-sized even, and they're pretty terrifying and can kill you, so... Springtime... in Central California, you've already got springtime? Yeah. So, stretches... I do feel like I've turned a corner on my back recently, like knock on fake wood, knock on real wood. There. I felt like I kind of turned the corner yesterday. Oh, spring is there in Florida too. I'm jealous of you guys then. Totally jealous. Yeah, some of you guys are getting nailed with snow recently. Snow and ice. I do not miss it. Like, I miss snow until I have a day of it, and then I'm like, all right, I had my day of snow. I had my snow day. I don't really need more. There we go. I'm centered again. Centered. I'm back. I hope you all stretched. Oh, remember to hydrate. If you are not drinking your water, drink your water. Hydrating is important. And if you have coffee instead of water, well, go ahead, do it. But remember, it's a diuretic, so that actually means you need to drink more. Oh, wow. Austin. As long as you remember you have to drink more because it's a diuretic, Crowley. Although a lot of us who drink a lot of caffeine or drank a lot of caffeine adapt pretty quickly to the diuretic effect. Although I still did drink a lot more when I was doing the ketogenic diet because it's a diuretic diet. Alrighty. Solid. Now we can do our stone. Yep, tea works too. Morning, Max. Oh, no. No snow days, Magnetic Gumby. That's so sad. Yes, remember to drink water as well as your magic bean or leaf potion. Yes. Yes, exactly. It's I've been having to remind myself of that recently because I love the flavored sparkling water we buy so much that I've been drinking more of it and less real water, and I have to remind myself, no, Anne, you still have to drink some real water. Drink water without anything in it, for gosh sakes. So I'm going to put down a couple of drops of brown liner, and I'm going to put my wolf gray and stone gray in that. And although my main stone color is mostly wolf gray with just a drop of stone, I'm going to equalize these for the dark because it makes sense to do so, right? It's a darker color, so if I have more proportionate stone gray in there, it doesn't matter. But yes, bottom line is move and hydrate. It helps your muscles and your skeleton and your everything. Come on. We all enjoy doing this. We all need to like stick around in this life for as long as we can, and we should be in as good shape as we can while doing it so that we can really enjoy it. That's always been my philosophy. But then I want to live till I'm 100 because I really want to see what happens. Like, there's so many, like, crazy changes happening in the world today. And I kind of want to see, like, what things are like when I'm 100. But I also want to, like, have a decent quality of life when I'm, like, in my 80s. So, motivates me to get out and walk every day. Even when I don't feel like it. Yesterday, I did not feel like it. Morning, dragon. Oh, allergy season. Yeah. I didn't see you earlier, Dragon, but I guess you were here and Max is new. Alrighty. We've got some stuff. Let's see here. So let's consult what we did is we did a marbling effect with light and dark and our midtone. So we're going to do that on this as well. Got a nice broad space to do it in. I usually start with my midtone. I'm going to start actually away from the details here. Then I'm going to put in some light. Just kind of smoosh it in. Put it in splotches. Can stop and clean out my brush if I feel like I got too much paint on them. Then you want to interrupt this pattern. You really want to kind of, I try not to pull it around. I try to stipple and let it flow. And if I accidentally get into the red, that's fine. I can touch it up. But I do try to like let all my paint kind of flow around. Put in some dark next to that light. And if you can get it, I put on quite a bit, and I've thinned this paint. So it is inclined to kind of capillary action together a bit when I smoosh it. And that's what gives me the pattern I'm looking for. So I'm just really kind of lurking to interrupt it. Do watch yourself. It's very tempting as a human to make this too regular. So you really want to kind of keep an eye on yourself. Make sure that you're keeping it a bit irregular. That's okay. You can be distracted. We all have those days. And if you want to blend it in or pull parts of it out so that you get these nice marbly threads going through stuff, feel free. This is how I tend to set up marble, and then I go from here, but I like to start with a randomized effect. An effect that really looks kind of organic. I try not to have any really hard edges though. Like if I notice a hard edge, I try to blur it in, because any hard edges I want to kind of have control over, if that makes sense. So I'll suggest where edges might be, but I don't want any really harsh ones. So I'm likely to take my tip of my brush and kind of stipple them softer. And then there will be some shading, like, of course, realistic shading also on the bowl. So I've got to keep that in mind. Bring in some shadow. I'm going to work a little tighter and more controlled as I near the areas where I've got my red. Reaper Virtual Expo packs are live. So if you want to go and buy a thing, you should go buy a thing. I actually need to order. I need to remember to make my Reaper order today. So the reason that I do the wet blend, and the reason that I kind of like to control where my sharp edges are, is that after this I will go back with more full strength colors, versions of these colors, to and I will put in a sharper line then. But I want to start with something a little softer usually. Something a little bit less extreme. Then I can get darker. I can put darker veins in, right? I can put lighter patches in as well. I can define some of these edges. But when it comes to like getting defined edges, I don't want that to be randomized. I want to control that. So that's why I do it this way. I also like this technique for marble because unlike like sponging techniques, which rely on a level surface, a big broad surface, and are usually best on floors and pillars, this technique can be done on even small areas as long as you have a brush that's small enough and you have the control. The less paint you put on the model, the less things are going to flow together and get that interesting capillary action. So my paint is actually not very thick right here, so I'm not noticing as much flow. So if I want more flow, I have to use more paint on the model. And the other thing is, if your paint is thicker, it's not going to produce as much capillary flow. So do keep that in mind. If you are looking for that effect, you might need to add a little water to your paint, even though that's kind of counterproductive when you're doing wet blending, which this is technically. We're putting wet on wet into wet. There we go. And we'll just get some little stipples over here. Mostly just want to put a little bit of texture into these little tiny stone areas so that they continue to carry as stone. Don't want to leave them just a flat gray. If the rest of the shield has this much variation, then these little areas in here will also have variation, as well as the hands. Although you can get away with a little bit less patterning on the hands. I'm just putting some lighter streaking over the fingers. And we'll do the arm up here. This is going to be completely stone arm still, so put on a fairly thick coat of my initial color. Throw in some darks. And you can also, you know, like you can modify this to make it look more realistic with shading down the road. This is, again, why I am not going real full strength or precise with my colors, is I know that whatever I've got toward the end, I might modify to because I'm realistically shading it, right? So this is like a base coat. Even though this is all like got all sorts of weird, you know, color flow together and light and dark patches, it's not a realistic shading or highlighting. It's just a weird multicolored base coat. So you'll go over the top of this with further shading or highlighting. And on the underside, the arm here, I'm probably just going to paint it dark because I don't need to put a lot of effort into delineating this area because it's going to be in shadow. So I probably will paint it the dark gray, which is 1 drop wolf gray, 1 drop stone gray, 2 drops of brown liner. And I'll also do that on the back of the shield. Make sure I'm dry enough on the front to flip it over. I could go even darker with this. Yeah, my marble technique is fast. That's the other good thing about it, is that at least this is just the base to set up. But, and honestly, if you wanted to, like if you look at your shield and you put it on the model, and you kind of look at the model from the rear. Ah, oh no. Sit, stay. I would use poster tack, but I don't want to dig it out of the arm socket. All right. So kind of look at the back of the shield and see, oh, okay, so there's actually light hitting a fair amount of the back of this. That means that I could marble it more. So let's throw a bunch of dark shadow on there, but I'm still going to keep it more dark because it is the backside. And then I'm going to add in just a little bit of marbling. And you see, I've got a lot of paint on here. You can see how these are kind of swooping together, running together, these colors are. So maybe I'll switch to a slightly lighter marble as I get over to here. Use more of my wolf gray mix and kind of just stipple the edges in to blend it a bit. Like so. Bring in a little bit of white. Have it mix up a bit. Now, if you get too much paint in, everything's going to want to flow together and just like it's going to start to lose everything, lose all of your details. So kind of pause for a bit if you feel like that's happening. You can choose to maybe use a little bit of full strength or almost full strength on some of these colors. But even me trying to drop a bunch of bleached linen in is just going to flow together at this point because I've got so much paint pooling here. So at that point, I kind of have to sit and wait for everything to just kind of set and dry and see what kind of patterns I get at the end. If you definitely want your paint to kind of flow one direction, prop up your shield in that direction to encourage that flow. The other thing you can do if you think you're going to lose everything is to rinse out your brush, come back and just kind of wick off where it's very, very thick. Kind of take some of your paint off of there so that you don't have everything kind of flow together and you lose all your patterns. Because it's easy for a rounded thing like this for all the paint to flow to the middle and you lose all your pretty patterns. Let's see, and grab up some of this because it's a little bit extra. Pretty much pulling paint away from the areas that aren't marbled so that I'm not interfering with any of the patterns that I got that I liked. As the rim dries a bit, I can reintroduce a little bit of texture. Because I know the lower part here is probably going to be darker. If I decide, screw it, I want lighter stuff on this side, I can add it in as I've pulled some of this paint away. Boop-a-doop-a-doo. Then I'm just going to kind of work around the edges, blending them in a bit, pulling the paint around, breaking it up. And if you do it right, you get something that really actually looks marbled. And then you go in and you make it even more so. It's fun. You should try this. It's a good time. Hey, Jabberwock. We're playing with marbly things today. Let me see. Marbly things. See how that's all kind of flowing together into cool patterns? Like, this is the kind of stuff you did as a kid, right? I'm going to stand up again, do a stretch, maybe move over, get my other chair. Got to work with the back and not against it. Well, actually, we need to let that dry for a second anyway, so if you have questions, I'm here. Should I bother with the other chair? The other chair didn't really help me yesterday. But yeah, if you guys have any questions right now while I wait for that to dry for just a second, shoot and ask. And yes, my afternoon stream on my channel is on today. As long as my back doesn't, like, implode between now and then. Maybe I'll play with this while I'm waiting for that to dry. Maybe get the bottom rim of this to... This is actually really big, so I could move to a flat. Where are my flat brushes? I had a flat sitting out here, and then I managed to put it somewhere. Let's see. That's a decent... It's an angled... Ah, there we go. There's my Reaper flat. So we'll start playing with the bottom of this. Boom. Let me go back. Now this big brush is going to suck up paint a lot faster. So I might need to remix. Yes, we're doing the shield here, Jabberwock, today. But I have to pause and let things dry, so that means I'm going to put use my Giganto brush to do a bigger, broader version of this marbly effect on my base. Although with this, I definitely want to rinse out my brush because it's dropping down a lot of paint every time I put it down because it's a big, fat, splayed out, flat brush. So once I get a big chunk of dark down, I want to definitely rinse out my brush and bring my light back in. So unlike this, it's so much nicer to use a big brush. And since there's texture on this base, your marble effect isn't going to be as apparent anyway. So using a big fat brush just kind of gives you a little bit of variance and texture. Maybe if I want to add a little bit of light, I'll just do a tiny bit. Don't want a lot of light in my shadows, so I'm mostly using my shadow and my midtone down here to get a cool effect like that. There. Cool, cool. So I've got some, you can see the striations. This is a fun one. Ron might get this one. If she turns out as well as I think she's going to turn out as she goes. It's probably the longest, you know, like nobody else ever spends this much time painting a living statue, is that kind of thing. But she has been fun. So yeah, see how the irregular shape of this big brush, the fact that it's all splayed, helps with this technique? It gives me an irregular surface to start from. And then when I come in with my big areas, then it gets very irregular very quickly. So you really want to go usually a little bit lighter weight, like not as much stippling and blending. Just kind of touch it, or everything will smoosh together because your brush is so big. But if you need to bring in a little bit more dark, you can do it just like I did that there. Having a brush that has a very irregular shape, like this one is splayed, it really helps for this sort of thing on bigger surfaces. Because even just the slightest touch of that is very irregular. You know, it's very... See? It almost is instant marble. So it's really, really cool to work with a brush you might otherwise consider ruined is perfect for this. Like, as with many brushes who are really, like, showing their age, but they'd still make great terrain brushes, you know. Yeah, I used to love Clash of the Titans when I was a kid. So maybe that explains my living statue preferences. Yeah, but then I'm just going to do the dark and the medium here. And then when I come back in, I can do some light veining and it'll be cool. But we don't want to spend as much time down on the base as we do on the statue herself. So setting it up, getting your basics. Oh, I got a little bit of dark paint on there. I wonder if I can still scrub it off. If not, I'll have to go over it. Oh yeah, maybe I can. Let's find out. Yep, at least a little. So sometimes when you're trying to scrub off a blurf, using a stiffer brush like this can work as long as your paint underneath, as long as your underlying coat is attached really well. Just take some water and gently scrub at it until your blurf goes away. Ta-da! Oh, I don't like marble with dry brushing. It doesn't look right to me. I think, you know, probably because it's like laying a scratchy texture over the stone instead of trying to make the stone look like it's integrated, right? Like where the veins are part of the stone. So that's where I feel like the dry brushing technique for marble, although it certainly works if you're doing quick, I feel like it falls down a little bit. And this is fast too. That's the thing, is this is really fast. Look at how fast I got that base blocked in, guys. And that's just like, now I just go and I draw some veins. Boom, done. And the tip for drawing veins that are realistic, guys, is follow the edge. Like, if you're putting in a dark vein, follow the edge of one of your dark patches and darken it down a little bit in from there. And it'll look like the vein is part of the stone. And then at the end, if you really need to integrate it, take one of your colors, like your mid-tone maybe, my gray here, or even the dark gray, and glaze. Like, get a really thin glaze and put it over the cracks and the veins and everything. And that'll make everything come together and look like it's part of the stone. And that's important to me if I'm trying to do a marble effect, is that I don't want it... If I want a crack to be a crack, then I just don't glaze over it. But if I want it to be... Unless I want it to be a really fine crack. But if I want it to be, like, veining actual stone, then I'm going to want to, put a glaze over it, probably. But yeah, I mean, I love this pattern. Look at that. We got such a cool pattern here. It looks like it's integrated. It looks like it's part of the stuff. It's good. Yeah, well, and it's the level it's on too, Shadow Raven. Like I said, it goes over the top. Dry brushing deposits a layer of paint on top of a surface. And that can be very apparent visually. And that's not how marble is constructed. So I feel like this just gives you a much better effect in the same amount of time, and you're still using a wrecked brush, but actually it's working for you. So yeah, I think that works really, really well. But yeah, I like this lady. So our shield is almost dry, and we got some cool, look at that darker marble. Since we went more dark with everything, that's looking pretty cool. I don't know about these little bands, the armbands in here. I'm gonna have to probably taint them as if they're stone. So I'll just leave all my stone color on that. But that looks pretty cool. Pretty cool. Darker than the front, but that's okay. It's a style choice. Sometimes when you decide to ignore a rule, you can just say style choice. Yeah, well, if it's big and a lot of flat surfaces, use a brush like this. Use an old flat or something that has a nice splayed pattern, because that can give you those nice randomized effects when you just pop it down on some wet paint. I didn't use it for the front because I wanted tighter control, because, you know, we're moving around these tighter lines here, so we don't want to be all over the place with our marble. But when you've got the room, just go for it, especially if it's not an important part of the model. Just get yourself some texture down really fast and go for it. I love doing marble this way because it's so much fun, and it's so quick, and it looks so good. I think people underestimate this technique. I came up with it ages ago, just kind of messing around. And I've really liked it always since then. All right, cool. I'm going to have to kind of do a little bit of work on the back of this arm. It's a little bit dicey. I'm going to try to use just the tiny tip of my big brush. But you see, it's a lot harder to use this big brush constructively when your model is when you're working on a very small part of the model. Still, it's enough to kind of randomize that surface, and that's what I wanted. I didn't want that really strong shadow line. So there we go. And this is the great thing about this, is that you can use this marble technique with any color. Works with everything. I just like the way it looks with gray a lot. One thing I would advise is to always have kind of a mid-tone color and a dark, or a mid-tone color and a light, or both. So, you know, you can go darker, you can go lighter, but you want a lot of difference. Like the closer together your two marble colors are, the less of an effect you're going to get, the more subtle your marble's going to be. So if you're looking for more like a pink granite, which only maybe has a tiny bit of veining, you know, then you want to keep your colors pretty close together and introduce any flaws probably after you've laid down just a really subtle stipple. But yeah, so vary it. Look at your stone examples, obviously. I've done marbled stone so often this way in the past that I just go for it. Can usually judge whether or not I feel it looks realistic. Or realistic enough. I mean, this is a living statue, and she could be made from all sorts of different stone, like fantasy stones that we don't have in our world. Now I'm going to kind of get tight around here. I missed this part in here. So we're going to bring this in. And bring in a little light or dark to kind of suggest the stone effect. And yeah, we do have to still go in and shade and highlight various things. But now we have something to work from. Like we're starting with an underlying pattern. And notice also that I'm working in areas, like I'm not doing the whole thing at once. I'm concentrating, especially when I'm using my smaller brush, and I am trying to work in small areas at a time so that I can kind of control the effect, because you've got to work while your paint is wet, so you have to kind of work in sections. But I'm liking how this is looking right now. I'm kind of tempted to make a white streak kind of coming from the eye, going out there, almost like there's magic like arcing out from the eye. Maybe I'll do that. Let's see. First I have to highlight and shade, then I can worry about magical effects. I always set it up. I don't do the magical effect out the gate if I'm considering it. I try to set it up so it looks nice first, and then see if I can do what, maybe, you know, do the eye white and have kind of a trace of lightning coming out from it. That'll be fun. So yeah, 1040. What do we have? Let's see. What should we do? We've gotten a lot, kind of put in today. I haven't lined my red or shaded it, so let's get some liner. I probably would use brown liner for the wraps here. Wasn't intending to do marble today, decided, just went there. This is why the Twitch stream is always fun, is just that if I'm like, oh, well, I guess I'll do red, and then I decide I want marble halfway through, or I can do it. Yay! That's why it's nice to have a subject that's not painting red. Instead, it's painting the statue, and we will paint whatever part of the statue we feel like. So I'm going to leave this pretty strong. I'm going to do a 4:1 paint to water, which will make my lines a little bit lighter. Liners are formulated to produce a more transparent, lighter, natural line as you thin them. So if you want a very natural shadow when you're working with liners, do thin them down. The more full strength you keep them, the more harsh your line will be. War Shadow, if you want. I haven't done a tutorial, but I mean, when we did Rock Troll, all those crystals. Magic weapons are different. Magic weapons aren't necessarily transparent or glowing or any of that. I haven't really done a glowing weapon on here. I don't think I've done an OSL. I don't think I've done an other source lighting. But crystals are in Rock Troll. So if you go and look for Rock Troll on Reaper's YouTube, I think he's 44002. Yeah. We did crystals on him. Several times, too. Not just once. Let's see here. Oh, yeah, we're gonna do red. But, yeah, magic weapons can be anything, right? You could do a magic weapon with lightning. You could do a magic weapon that looks like crystal. You can do a magic weapon that's glowing. You can do a fiery magic weapon. So, magic weapon is like, there are all these techniques. Oh, yeah, you're right. Fire Giant dude. So if you go and look up Fire Giant dude, hold on. He's not in our rotation right now, but he's still here. He's hanging out in the back of my shelf glaring at me. So Fire Giant dude had glowy sword. Glowy fiery sword. It starts out flat. I did metal on the other side. But I like this a lot better. So if you look at Fire Giant, you should be able to find the time we did the sword. Fire Giant is 77614. So all that's on the YouTube. I mean, honestly, War Shadow, if you just sat and, like, you know, worked on other stuff while you, like, listened to my tutorials, like, you'd have ages of tutorials to listen to. I've been doing this show now for, what, over 2 years? And we've been doing so many different models. Okay, so if you're doing crystal, you've got to do the gemstone technique, so I would look for Rock Troll. Although well, if you do a simple effect, it shouldn't be hard. Assuming the spear is well sculpted. If the spear is not well sculpted, then it's going to be rough for you. What you really need is well sculpted spear. So by well sculpted, I mean all the angles should be very clear and sharp. And it's going to be a lot easier for you if you're trying to do crystal on a spear, if it's like very clear and sharp angles. If you don't have that, it's harder to make it look like crystal. Yeah, thanks, Copac. Well, I've been painting for like eternity, right? That's actually why I really enjoy doing Twitch, guys. Is that we can get off on tangents and we can talk about like a huge variety of topics in every session. And we cover everything from like fairly simple, easy stuff to like fairly complex topics or advanced topics. So I'm just going to start on one side. I'm going to hit all the little lines. This is good practice for brush control, by the way. If you don't try to paint it all the way around, it's a lot easier to just do little dashes, guys. I'm glad you guys appreciate it. All I ask is that you actually utilize the knowledge. Go out and paint things. Ooh, do you guys want to see the project that I'm really, really looking forward to starting on? So, this is from my new favorite company, Ignis Art. Hold on, I'm gonna... Don't tell Reaper. She's a little pixie, and she's clinging to a flower stem. She's upside down. She's so cool! And she's got a little spray of flowers, too, that comes off of the end of her stem. It's beautiful. So yeah, Ignis Art, they're in Poland, I think. They've put out so many things I really love. I think I own almost everything they've done at this point, and I should just order the last model I don't have, just so I have a complete collection at this point. Yeah, I also was working more. I showed my, the start of my Sky Earth NMM on Paladin Girl. I'm starting her hair. Her hair is going to be like Juliet. So I started on the Sky Earth Lion. And then all the gray, all the bluish gray is all going to go Sky Earth. So. But that's a lot. Like, now that project is going to progress very slowly because the Sky Earth effect is taking a lot of brain power because it's so complicated already, and now I'm doing it on something with a zillion surfaces all pointed in different directions. So that project is definitely, it requires me to be really sharp when I work on it. So it may be a weekend project. I kind of put together the Pixie last night because she's much simpler. And so when I don't feel up to Sky Earth non-metallic metals, I have another project I can work on. Because I really do want to, so much of that Templar model is metal that I really need to get on the metal. Once I have the metal in, then I'm going to know what to do with the vest and all the rest of it. I kind of have my colors figured out on that one. I kind of want a red, yellow, blue color scheme, but muted. But I'm just looking at it going, I need to get some of this stuff figured out. So what I'm doing, guys, is I'm just continuing to turn the spear. It should only take about 3 sides, maybe 4. But I turn it so I can kind of see where I ended my previous line, and I can see the straps, and then I just do another dash. They have them painted as the concept art. The problem with this fairy model is the concept art is beautiful, and it makes me want to paint it like the concept art. They give you a little authenticity, because it's a limited run. But she's painted like this, where she's got kind of the dark violet on her hands and stuff, and the white with yellow centers, like more like heliotropes. But I mean, the way they're sculpted, you can paint them however you want. I'm probably going to do them fantasy. I was actually thinking about blue, Kerniko. I was thinking about doing blue because I always, I love like Stories of Arcadia and the Fae and all that. And so I always kind of imagined it as kind of a land where it was always like Midsummer's Night. And so I thought about doing her like more in a kind of a cool color nighttime evening color scheme instead of that really bright yellow green. Although I do love yellow greens, and so it is like seriously hard not to just paint her in the established color scheme. I don't know. I'm really knocking around with color schemes on her. I don't think it'll be long before I settle on the one I really want, though. But she's a great one, because, I mean, I love doing smooth skin tones, and she's just, like, all skin tones. So, oh, who asked? Who asked brushes? Oh, is there? I didn't see it. Is it up yet, Deep Clearman? I haven't followed them because I've been trying to be good. Oh, cool pack. Yeah, this is my 8408. It's a Kalinsky. It is a Raphael. It is a size 1. 8408 is the series that's got the longer, narrower tip. It's not as full as the 8404, but I love it because it's not as full. Well, right, and you gotta choose your skin tone to offset your flowers and figure out what your accents are. She has very little clothing on. She's got flower petals that come down over her top as a top. Pre-order start 212. Thank you. See, guys, D. Clearman, he's the guy. He keeps an eye on all of these sites, and like he knows when the good new stuff is coming out. So we should just have him give an update of stuff you don't want to miss. That's good. I need to order the pre-order. I'm sure I want it. So I'll go look at their stuff. But like I need another model. Like I need a hole in my head. But yeah. But here's an example. Cool pack. The one on the right is brand new. The one on the left has been abused a bit. So you can see how it kind of is thinned down. This is just because I think because I rinse my brushes so much. But this is the new one. But you see how long and narrow that tip is. It's become more tapered naturally as I thin it down, and I've lost height, as you can see. So I've lost hairs probably, but it's still perfectly usable. This I've been using for close to a year, this one that I've broken in severely. Raphael 8108. Oh, it is Ignis Art. Hold on, I have a sticker. They are a Polish company, so you will pay a little bit more. Ignis Art. But they have some beautiful stuff. I own almost everything. And their sculptors really know how to do great women. And they do, they've got a series that's Polish folklore, which is just, right up my alley. The Harpy's amazing. So yeah. Can't not say they're awesome. And hey, Reaper doesn't do anything like that stuff, so I feel okay about mentioning it on here. Like, they're doing, you know, like the Fairy, I think, is 80 millimeter or life size? I don't know. I mean, Pixies, who knows what size they really are, right? If they existed. And the other stuff is Fantasy Busts, which we keep, like, kind of thinking about and then not doing a lot of, although we're getting there. So again, when you're using a brush with this narrow of a tip, I'm using the fresh one right now, make sure your paint is thinned. This 4:1 liner is a bit more fluid than a 4:1 regular MSP paint. But as you can see, like back there where I had kind of a blorf where it wouldn't come off my brush, there is a point where thicker paint won't come off these long, narrow brushes as well. So that's when you reload. Oh, the new witch is from the 75 Dreams. Okay, good. Thanks, D. Clearman. But you guys should look at the Polish stuff too, because I have the witch for my other project. Kind of the herbalist witch. They're just nice sculpts. And then I've got that box full of Kickstarter stuff from the Muses Kickstarter. I was looking at those last night going, okay, I need to make more time to paint. Now that my back is getting better, it's like I need to make more time to paint because I want to start on those so bad. They're such beautiful sculpts. All right. Well, we're at least getting some linings done, and we just have to connect up our last little space. But if you ever thought this was too tough or rough about trying to line around all these little straps, honestly, guys, just do one side, turn it. Do one side, turn it. It's the easiest thing then. You're just doing a little dash. And little dashes are so much easier than thinking you have to draw precise long lines. And you know what? If you screw it up a little bit, just kind of fudge it. It's like, if they're looking at one side of the model, they're probably not going to see if your dashes connect anyway. Although mine do. Oh, it's never a do it justice thing, Carnico. See, this is where you aspire. This is when you see models like that, that's when you aspire. Where you're like, okay, I'm going to get good enough to do a decent skin tone on a model like that. And then you work at it, right? That's how you get better. Like, I have done exactly one Sky, Earth, NMM thing in my painting life. And it was a simple round shield. Okay? And here I am doing a freaking lion. Do I know how to do that lion? No. Am I going to give it a good shot and learn a lot? Yes. Mindset. Mindset, Kuranico. You can do it. Just work at it. It's doable. Anybody can do it. Especially with mini painting, where mostly it's just about how to load and unload your brush and how thin your paint is. That's almost it. But they are beautiful, yeah. I understand the sentiment, but it's like, I have to encourage you. It's like in my guts. I can never tell anybody, oh, you're right. You just aren't good enough for that yet. Screw that. Everybody can get good enough to do that. If you're not there, you're just not there yet. You just have to do it. I'm not there yet. I can't do this yet. I can't do it justice yet. But leave that open. Leave it open. I believe in you. I believe in all of you. Go out and paint beautiful things. I just want to see I'm selfish. Next time I judge at ReaperCon, I just want to see a huge amount of beautiful things in the painting contest. That's my entire goal. I want to encourage you because I'm selfish and I want to see beautiful paint jobs. Yes, D. Clearman is the master enabler. In fact, I should just make a role on my Discord that has that tag and just tag him. I have a plus 20 to my roll because I've worked my butt off, Kurnico, and I've painted a ton. But if you mean to my confidence roll, or my faith in you roll, then yes, I do. But you know what? I have faith in all of you to learn this stuff and to reach your painting goals because I have seen so many people do it. So many people that I have taught who are just getting so good now. And all they did is care about it and have fun painting. Just have fun painting. But push yourself just a little bit, on your next model, say, okay, I'm going to try to do better skin tones than I've done before. I'm going to try to make them smoother. Be specific. Be specific about your goal. Instead of just saying, I'll do better skin tones, say, I'm going to try to do better lighting, or I'm going to do better smoothness, things like that. I'm going to do better eyes this time. Whatever. Don't work on everything at once. be realistic, but you don't get anywhere without trying. And I know you can do it. I know you can. Oh, so much energy right now. Yeah, they are expensive. That is the downside of the Ignis stuff. Mini painting is good, but it can be better. Yes. I mean, look at there have been plenty of times in my life, and I still struggle with this, like, especially with weight loss. I struggle with the whole, I can do this, getting myself to believe it. So I know where you're at, because, I can remember when I had that attitude towards some of my art. But by working on it over the years, I've gotten much better at it. And now I'm to the point where what gets me excited is when I'm thinking about doing something new or trying a new technique on a piece, right? Even if I don't know if I can do it, because it's just some way that I can try and learn. So instead of doing the same old stuff, right? So, but I do get it. Like, I run into the problem, with my weight loss. Like, I go back and forth between the I can't do this and the I can do it, and I fight myself on it all the time. So, I do get it. Where sometimes you feel, and like weight loss, with any skill, you can hit a plateau where you feel like, this is as good as I'm going to get. Because it just feels like it. But I think the thing to realize is that it doesn't take a lot of work to get better at mini painting. It's fun, right? It's a fun thing. It's your hobby. You love it. You do it because you love it. So if you just paint more and you just try to get a tiny bit better with every model, eventually you're going to be amazing. You're not going to believe how good you are. You're going to be like, whoa, where did this come from? And that's the fun. Those are the best times. For me, especially. Like, I am never happier. Like, I don't care what I score at ReaperCon. What makes me happy is when somebody who I taught comes up to me and goes, I got silver. And they're so thrilled because they were like a freaking certificate 2 years ago, right? And they never thought they could do it. That's what I love to see. I love to see people who are so happy with what they've painted recently. That's what I love to see. Yeah, so you're concentrating. You're trying to get better. You're good, Kerniko. You're good. Don't worry about it. Don't be too hard on yourself either. I do that all the time. I'm super hard on myself. And it's kind of a self-defense thing, from when I was a kid. I was like, if I'm super hard on myself, then, nobody else is going to be as hard on me as I am. But that wasn't a real healthy mindset for me either as a kid. But it took a while to shake myself out of it. And I'm still shaking myself out of it. David always calls me on it. I'm going to mix up a little bit. And actually, as you can see, Heraldic Red is a pretty standard red because it gives you a pretty warm, nice pink when you throw some white into it. I just want to try to do a little bit of a highlight on these. Yeah, Hudson. I've been there too. Usually what that means for me, Hudson, is I put the model away for a little while. And then I come back to it. Like, there's the bust of the Rocket Girl that I had from Mr. Lee's Miniatures. Like, I love the face on it. And I started to do the armor and I just broke. Like, I was just like, okay, this is not turning out at all like I wanted it to. I don't like it. I don't know how to fix it right now. I'm just going to put it away. So for me, I put it away. And then every once in a while, I'll go through, like, my projects that are kind of set away, out of sight. And kind of look at them and see if I've got any new ideas. And sometimes I will. Sometimes I will, and I'll be like, you know what? I really love this face. I want to do the hair. Oh, wait, maybe I can fix this part, I'm not good at mechanical stuff. So her big body armor stuff is, both a challenge for me, and it's also, just frustrating. So, I run into those too, so I get it. We all do. Like, the best painter in the world is going to have a day where they just want to throw the mini across the room. Or if they're smart, they're just going to sigh, put it aside, and work on something else until they're ready to pick it up again. The more I live with David, the more I'm inclined to believe in his theory of the shelf of lost love, where he doesn't beat himself up because he's got a bunch of unfinished projects. He just has them. They're just there. Sometimes he'll pick one up and he'll finish it. He just did that not long ago. Actually, the model he's working on now, he's had sitting on that shelf for a long time. But he just got finally inspired to like work on her, and now he's over the hardest part. So I guess I'm getting into that. I used to beat myself up a lot over the models that I'd started, and then I thought I was just like getting no attention span, right? Oh, I have no attention span. Why can't I stick to a model and finish it? Blah, blah, blah. Don't beat yourself up like that. It's not worth it. It's your art. It's your hobby. It's your fun. Who cares if you don't finish a model? You're the only one who cares. Yeah, Kariniko, me too. That wasn't as bad as you thought it was, right? Because your brain has been like blowing up how bad it is, and then you go back and you can objectively look at it. It's like it's like putting your writing in the drawer is what they call it. You know, when you finish a story, you put it away for a while, then you go back to it so you can look at it with fresh eyes and not the preconceived notions you've got about it. Good, Estrogene. I'm glad. Yes, the hobby is for us. Oh, eek. There we go. Yeah, fine crap. Sorry, fine cast. Yeah, there's a reason I stopped painting my Eldar Rangers. Let's just not talk about it. I don't dare throw them out because I never know if they're going to be better Rangers that are in plastic that I can buy separate from a big box set that costs $100. But I just, yeah, I feel you. I'm just doing little, so what I'm doing is I'm taking my pink and I'm just putting a line at the top of each of these little red things. It's just like the lines we did to line around them. It's just you're going to put a little line toward the top, and that is going to make it look three-dimensional, see? And that's really all you need to do for that. Like, you don't need much more than one highlight on something this tiny. The lining counts as simple shading, and the pink, the line of pink across the top, counts as simple highlighting. And if you ever feel like it's gotten too pink and it isn't red enough, that's when you grab your clear red and you glaze over the top. Although before you do that, I would recommend doing actually one more highlight. If you're going to glaze, then I would take some pure white and just mix a tiny bit of the pink into it. And I would do a little spot of pure white, kind of on the center, kind of going down the middle. The reason is that when you glaze, you can lose like a subtle highlight like the pink. And so if you do this additional white, then when you glaze, you still have a highlight if it takes your pink down too much. You don't have to re-highlight everything. So then that looks really too much now, right? But that's when we take a color and glaze. We can actually not even use clear red. We can actually just use our heraldic red. It's more than saturated enough. So grab a little and toss it in there and grab a couple drops of water so you have like kind of like water. Aw, that's too bad, Hudson. Off for foods. Bye, Shadow Raven. So I'm going to grab that glaze. I'm going to put this on, and then we're going to probably call the stream. So if Justin, your disembodied self is out there, okay, so let's glaze. Glaze. Just paint a layer over the whole dang thing. And take your brush. If you see any pools, dry it off real quick, and come and take your really fine brush edge and just kind of wick away any little pools you see. So you don't get coffee marks. Although on something like this, it's unlikely you will. But there you go. So then, see how that knocked the white down? And it also made it more vibrant, but you still have highlights. Who are we going to raid, Justin? I've done my shtick for the day. We've gotten a lot done today. Actually, I'm very happy with what we got done today. So we'll have to shade. We'll have to do some shading and more highlighting on our red next time. And we'll blend in this stuff and make it more, get our highlights in, get our shadows in, blend it into our grays a little bit better so that it looks like it's fading in and out. Get some more of our browns done. All right, Zambies. Fantastic. Okay, guys. So there we go. We blocked in our shield. We did a lot of marble today. We talked about painting red a bit. I hope you guys had a great time, and I will see you, those of you who want to show up for my D&D stream this afternoon. It starts at about 4:30 p.m. Central Time on twitch.tv/paintingbig. Okay, I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.